Okay, in this video, we're going to wrap up looking at the last 3 or 4 more obscure track types. And to do that, we're going to use this fictitious commercial called Flyby Resorts, which is actually made up of fragmentary pieces of real commercials, but fragmentary enough that no one's going to get sued. We're going to start with something not used a whole lot in Cubase typically, which is to add a video track. And video isn't really what Cubase does, but for scoring projects like this, it works well. And if you want to practice your chops as a composer for film and video, you can bring in a scene from a movie or a commercial, and then practice, putting your own material with it. Cubase, however, cannot record video, so we're going to have to import it using the File menu. And just a note, you have the option here to import just the audio from a video file if you need to grab just the narration from an interview or something for sound bites. But we want the whole video file, so we're going to grab that, navigate out to the desktop to our clients folder, and get the Flyby Resorts commercial .mov file. Open that. And the first thing we're going to see here is that the frame rate doesn't line up. We've got this red mismatch warning up here. So if you go to the project menu in the setup dialog, and this is, of course, as you know from the quick start videos, where you can get your frame rate and sample depth and so forth. You can manually select the frame rate or just get from video, and that takes care of it in one shot. All right, and that's squared away. Then I'm also going to set our locators here so we don't miss anything when we export. And finally, we can look at a device here, which is the video player. And this is a freely scalable window. You can move it anywhere you want. And depending on how close of an eye you need to keep on the picture while you're working, it gives you the ability to do that. We'll tuck this away over here, get rid of the transport panel. And then that's just going to play along as we roll through our project here. So we have an issue, however, in that we have now a very specific length of material we need to work with, and that's this 10-second timeline. If you change your ruler to timecode, it gives you a real good look at the length of the video, but this isn't a very natural format for a musician to work in for composing. So what we can do is put this back into bars and beats, which is going to keep the grid in bars and beats so our quantizing tools work and so forth. And let's come over here and create a ruler track. And we'll set the ruler track to timecode. And we'll pull that right up underneath here. And now you can see the running time of your media and the bars and beats of your music simultaneously. And this is a handy way to look at stuff, just composing music as well, so you can keep an eye on. Make sure you hit that perfect 3-minute pop song or whatever it is. I'm also going to split the track list here and keep our time code and our video stuff up at the top, and we'll use the lower section for the musical elements. And I'm going to start by adding an instrument track. We're going to have a piano and a voiceover narration for this project. And we'll do that with Halion. And pick out a piano sound that we like here. That'll do. And then close this up. And I want to show you that now that we've got Halion set, we put it away, we can come over here and open the racks, and it's still available at a glance there if we need to make quick changes and so forth, and not deal with another floating window. Then I guess we'll call this piano. And then let's add an audio track here, mono for the narration. And a couple of organizational tips. One would be if you can come up with a color code scheme for your tracks so that, say, video are always red, piano are always green, and we use color 10 for narration. Then on larger projects, you'll be able to tell at a glance what's what. Something else you may consider doing, I've seen this used several times with pretty decent results. If you're better with faces than names, and the artists coming in have headshots, or you can take a quick picture, use the track picture dialog instead of the typical icon for a piano. If you bring the person's image into your user library here, in this case, I think Janet is the piano player, and you can assign her headshot to that track, and our narrator is going to be Jenny. In fact, let's name this right now. And then use her headshot for that. It may make it easier to remember who's where and which track you're dealing with, especially if people are in different rooms and so forth and so on. So, okay, with that set, let's go ahead and we'll have piano part laid down, and then we'll add the narration, and we'll look at how to use tempo and time signature to fine-tune everything. So let's get the piano in there next. Okay, very nice job, Janet. We do not, unfortunately, have any wrong notes with which to demonstrate the edit in place capability, but if we had any wrong notes, we could come in and modify them right here. The one thing that we do need to correct, however, is that the piano part dies away slightly after the end of the video clip. Now, there's a couple of ways you could attack this. We could use our edit in place capability, select all those events, and move their ending point forward. But in all likelihood, that would cause them to truncate in a very unnatural way. So we will not do it that way. What I'm going to do is use our add track dialog, introduce a tempo track. And this is, the line, the gray line here represents the tempo value. And as we change this, it's going to look odd on the screen because it's going to look like it's squeezing the video, but that's a trick of the light. The way you use this is to take your pencil tool and then find the, I'm going to turn off snap so we can get a little better accuracy. Find the point in which you want to adjust the tempo, and then you can place as many of those as you want along there. And then I'm going to take the selection tool and increase the tempo until, see, it looks like the video is moving, but I'm going to adjust this upward until the video, the piano no longer ends after the video. So we'll bring it up to that point there. And if you wanted to have that ramp up more smoothly, we could create additional points and then have incremental changes. And in fact, if you grab a bunch of these, we now have scaling tools just like you do for the audio and various MIDI controller functions as well. So we can scale and change stuff around there. But the point is, what we want to do is adjust this until the, just going to tweak this around until the video and the piano come to rest at the same time. Everything comes to an end at the right time. So it's a little bit different application of a tempo track, but just to show that it's a tool that has a lot of different functionality. Okay, we've gone ahead and recorded the voiceover narration as well, and this is what our project's looking like so far.
Diversão para toda a família, ou só para vocês dois. A escolha é fácil demais. I keep waiting for
Okay, so we're almost there. Obviously, we've got a couple of little edits to make on the audio track. We've got the laugh up front and the comment at the end. And there's several different ways you can go about doing this. You can double-click the waveform, open the editor, and
I keep waiting for
come in and adjust it here. But you can work right from the project window as well. If we switch to our split tool, we can, since we visually identified that that's unneeded and the stuff up front is, split those. Then you can take the mute tool, and now they won't play back, but they're still there.
Diversão para toda a família.
Of course, you have the option just to delete them all together, or you could also unmute it here. You can take the volume handle at the top and just pull that down to nothing. And
só para vocês dois. A escolha é fácil demais.
And that'll be removed as well. So a couple of different options to prevent having to, again, open a whole bunch of windows and so forth. Now, we looked at track presets earlier. If we call up the audio track here, you can see there's nothing active here. If I open the editor on this channel, no EQ or anything at all. But I could add a track preset here, or by right-clicking and saying Load Track Preset. And just like we saw before, we've got a red box, meaning an active filter. Turn that off and, or clear it rather. And if we type in female, let's see, spoken. There we go. Female spoken word, basic, warm, loud, etc. So let's try spoken word, female, warm as a track preset. Apply that, and now open the channel editor, and we'll see some low-end roll-off, compressor, and let's take a listen to the difference that made.
Diversão para toda a família ou só para vocês dois.
In fact, let's mute the piano, and we'll just listen to the voice there with and without. I'll bypass the stuff and then bring it back in. So here's the bypassed version.
Diversão para toda a família ou só para vocês dois. A escolha é fácil demais.
So subtle, but again, if you're starting from scratch and you don't really know, geez, how would I even EQ that? You might not end up using it, or you might end up making some modifications of your own. But this gives you a good starting point to look at there. Okay, just two real quick things before we leave this project. I want to look at the pool and the project folder to show you what's going on in there. If we open the pool for this project, you'll see that there are now items. There's files in the audio and video folders, and you can see there's stuff in the trash, the previous takes, and so on. But only the media that's immediately in use by this project. If I hide this and we open the project file itself out on the desktop. And remember, these first two columns, these are folders we manually created. It's this one, the Flyby theme song that Cubase created. It has a bunch of stuff in it, most critically the audio files. And those are not saved as part of the .cpr. So if you were going to move this to a different location or send it to somebody and you send only the .cpr file, when they open it, it's going to wake up and say, I don't have any audio, I don't have any of the images and stuff that I need. You want to make sure to send them this, the entire project folder. And this is also why I said in chapter 2, avoid the temptation to create one master Cubase folder and put everything in there, because over time, so you have 15, 20 projects in there, the audio files for all of the waveforms and all of the takes and all of those projects ends up in this one folder that's just massive. If you're in the junk drawer situation where you've done that, everything's kind of in one massive Cubase folder, this is your way out. Use the project or the file menu and then the backup project command. It's going to give you this dialog and say, what are we going to name the backed up project? Do you want to remove unused files or backup video? You know, if you're removing this, if you're doing this sort of midstream, you're still working on it, and there are maybe alternate takes you might want to come back to, then uncheck this. You don't want to remove anything. You want to keep all the files. The video you may or may not want to back up depending on what the nature of the project is. But the most salient point here is that when you do this, Cubase is smart enough to go into that massive junk drawer folder, pull out just the stuff that pertains to this project, and it's going to go write it into the new folder. And if you had to untangle what I call the junk drawer system, just open your projects one at a time, back them up to a clean location, a new external hard drive or whatever you're doing. And at the end of that process, everything will be neatly compartmentalized within folders